You ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you're standing in the middle of a rom-com. Only you're not the charming lead. You're the background guy who gets dumped in the second act, before the quirky music starts? That's how I felt the moment I heard my fiancée's bridesmaid whisper. "She's still texting him?" right behind me. It was subtle, like she didn't mean for me to hear it. Except, it was also a little too careless, too confident. That's how cheaters operate, by the way. Not smart. Just smug. It's all fun and games until the guy holding the ring box is standing 3 feet away with a glass of overpriced champagne in his hand, and his whole future evaporating like the last bit of foam. Let me rewind for a second. My name's Alex. I'm 33, run a marketing firm in Oakland, and until 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to marry the love of my life at a vineyard that cost more than my parents' first house. Her name? Haley. The type of girl who makes people use words like effortless and magnetic until you realize what they really meant was, she's hot enough to get away with anything. We'd been together for 3 years. Met through a mutual friend, hit it off fast. She was funny, artsy, wore sundresses in winter. The kind of woman who always seemed like she was running 5 minutes late to her own storybook. At first, that felt charming. Then it felt like a red flag. But I ignored it because, well, when you're a guy like me, raised to be polite and boring and steady, a girl like her makes you feel alive. Or at least like you're playing the part of someone who is. The wedding was supposed to be the crown jewel in the fantasy. A 3-day escape at an estate in Sonoma. Private chef, family flown in from across the country, string lights wrapped around olive trees, and an open bar with wine names I couldn't pronounce but paid for anyway. We arrived 2 days early with the wedding party. 12 people, including Haley's best friends, her sister, my best man, and a bunch of folks I'd met exactly once, but was now paying $400 a head to feed seared halibut. I should have known something was off the first night. Haley was glued to her phone more than usual, laughing at texts she wouldn't share, stepping outside to call the coordinator, then coming back inside smelling like spearmint and guilt. I chalked it up to nerves. People get weird before weddings. Cold feet, last-minute changes. Maybe she was texting her mom. Maybe she was venting to her therapist. Or maybe, as it turns out, she was composing a love letter to a guy who wasn't me. Now, back to the moment that shattered the pretty little illusion I'd spent months, maybe years, convincing myself was real. I was walking past the tasting room where her bridesmaids were sipping rose and gossiping about God knows what. I wasn't eavesdropping, just passing by, when I heard one of them say, "She's still texting him?" There was a silence. Then another voice, lower. "Shoo, don't make her feel bad. It's just complicated." Complicated. That word hit me like a wine bottle to the skull. I stopped walking, just froze there for a second, like someone had unplugged me. Still texting him. Who the hell was him? I walked away, pretending I hadn't heard a damn thing. Because that's what you do when you're 2 days from saying I do and you just dropped 70 grand on a wedding you're not sure is even yours anymore. You pretend. You smile. You carry on. But my brain didn't let it go. It never does. It started flipping back through every strange detail from the past 6 months like a detective sifting through evidence they'd ignored the first time. The late nights. The phone always face down. The sudden crying jags over missing her independence. The new underwear that she didn't wear for me. And most of all, the wedding vows. Now that's where the plot thickens. See, we'd agreed to write our own vows. Something personal, romantic, vulnerable. Whatever makes guests cry and post about how in love we are. I'd asked her if she wanted help, or if she wanted to hear mine, maybe trade notes. She brushed me off, said it needed to come from the heart, that we'd ruin the surprise if we shared early. Fair enough. But after hearing that bridesmaid whisper, I got curious. I wasn't looking to snoop. Not at first. I just wanted to know, needed to know, that I was imagining things. So I waited until Haley went for her manicure appointment, and I accidentally opened her laptop. We'd shared that laptop for over a year. Nothing was password protected. Why would it be? We were a team. A couple. Practically married already. I clicked into her documents folder and typed Vows into the search bar. A file popped up immediately. Wedding draft _H. I opened it. First line. To my dearest T. You walked into my life when I didn't even know how lost I was. My stomach flipped. T. Not A. Not Alex. T. I kept reading. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't not. It wasn't a vow. It was a love letter. It talked about stolen weekends, quiet hotel rooms, how she never felt more seen. It talked about how this wedding means nothing, not compared to us. It ended with, "One more weekend, and I'll be yours for good." One more weekend. As in this one. I closed the laptop. Sat there in silence. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry, either. No, what I felt was colder than that. I felt clarity. You know what it's like when the fog lifts and you suddenly see the road you've been driving off? It's not rage. It's not heartbreak. It's like finally understanding the joke and realizing the punchline was always you. That night, I drank 1 glass of wine. Then I drank 3 more. I watched her laugh with our guests, clink glasses, take selfies with my mother. And I smiled. I smiled so hard my jaw hurt. Because the one thing I've always been good at, better than marketing, better than sales, better than any of the crap that makes me money, is timing. And I just found mine. Tomorrow was the rehearsal dinner. And I had a few vows of my own to share. The thing about weddings is, nobody ever suspects the groom. They expect the bride to have the cold feet, the meltdowns, the last-minute what-ifs. Grooms? We're furniture. We're expected to show up, wear the tux, smile politely, and shut up. No one checks if the groom is quietly plotting an emotional arson under the wine cellar. Which is why nobody noticed anything was off with me the next morning. I woke up early. Earlier than Haley. Earlier than the sun, probably. Just sat there on the little balcony of our overpriced honeymoon suite, watching the fog lift off the vineyard like it knew what I was planning. By the time Haley stirred and kissed me on the cheek, like nothing had happened, I was already 2 moves ahead. "Sleep okay?" she asked, stretching like a cat who's never burned a bridge in her life. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "You?" She nodded, then padded off to the bathroom, humming some indie song I'd heard her play 100 times before. A song, I now realize, she once told me reminded her of someone special from college. Yeah, T. I took mental notes while brushing my teeth. Her usual perfume. How long she spent on her makeup. The way she checked her phone, turned the screen away from me. Again, I didn't ask questions. I didn't say a word. By mid-morning, we were off to the final prep meetings, flower arrangements, seating charts, and all the other nonsense I had pretended to care about for the last 6 months. I kept my cool through all of it. Through her snapping at the florist because the peonies were too open. Through her pretending not to recognize my cousin Jess, who had flown in from Denver. Through her brushing off my mom's tears with an, "Ugh, she's so emotional lately." Yeah, I stayed chill. Because I had plans that night. Rehearsal dinner at 7 p.m., under a canopy of string lights and curated Pinterest lies. A private chef. 40 guests. A slide projector for photos of us through the years. Except I'd be using that projector for a slightly different presentation. After lunch, I snuck off under the guise of double-checking the slideshow. I told her I'd be with the venue's AV guy, making sure the montage of our greatest hits was playing in the right order. Childhood pics, vacation reels, that video of her slipping on ice in Lake Tahoe. The one she made me swear never to show anyone. Only I wasn't there to check on anything. I was there to load new content. On a flash drive, I copied the wedding draft_h file and converted it to a clean, elegant white-on-black scrolling animation. I added dramatic instrumental music. The kind you hear in perfume commercials or after someone confesses to murder on a true crime show. I didn't have to do much else. The words were already loaded with enough poison. And once that was done, I took a little walk. Not just anywhere. I needed to be sure about something. One last missing piece in this little horror puzzle I was starring in. So I went to find Haley's sister, Jess. Now, Jess is sharp. She's 3 years younger than Haley, less polished, more grounded. She's also always had a weird soft spot for me. Said I balanced out Haley's chaos. That day, she was setting up centerpieces in the barn where the rehearsal dinner was being held. She smiled when she saw me. Need something, almost brother-in-law? I laughed. Just some advice. She put down the eucalyptus she was wrangling and gave me a curious look. What kind of advice? I played it light. You think Haley's really ready for this? Jess blinked. What kind of question is that? The honest kind, I said. She studied me. Did she say something? I shrugged. Not really. Just she's been kind of off. Distracted. Jess's expression shifted. The polite mask slipped. Alex, you sure you want to get into this right now? Bingo. That pause told me everything. There's someone else, isn't there? I asked, keeping my voice level. Jess looked away. I'm not accusing, I added quickly. I'm just trying to get the full picture. You don't owe me details. I just need to know if I'm walking into something blind. Jess hesitated, then said, It's not what you think. That's a lie, by the way. It's always exactly what you think. Is it someone I know? I asked. Another pause. Alex, it's complicated. There's that word again. Complicated. Used exclusively by people who are 2 clicks away from a full-blown scandal. I nodded. Thanks. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, but I walked off before she could. I didn't need a confession. I already had the only one that mattered. In Haley's own words, typed neatly in Calibri, addressed to T. I spent the rest of the afternoon being the perfect fiancé. I shook hands. I made small talk. I helped my aunt find the right wine pairing and laughed at my future father-in-law's recycled dad jokes. And at 6:59 p.m., I walked up to the mic and tapped it twice. The lights dimmed. Thanks for being here tonight. I began, smiling like a man with nothing to lose. I know we're all excited about tomorrow. I just wanted to say a few words. Haley was at a table near the front, laughing with her bridesmaids. Jess was a few seats away, sipping wine like it was holy water. My parents sat dead center, all proud and clueless. I was trying to figure out what I'd say for my wedding vows. I continued. So I thought, why not read the ones my fiancé wrote? I heard the shift immediately. Haley's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. A low, confused chuckle ran through the room. She didn't want to share them early, I said. But they're so beautiful, I just couldn't wait. I nodded to the AV guy, who gave me a thumbs up. The projector whirred to life. A white screen filled the back wall of the barn, and then, in slow, cinematic text, it began. To my dearest T, you walked into my life when I didn't even know how lost I was. Silence. Complete silence. Then came the second line. This wedding means nothing, not compared to us. A gasp. A cough. And then, from Haley. Alex, what the hell are you doing? I ignored her. I kept reading aloud. I want you to know, I said, voice steady, that she was always yours, even while she was mine. Haley stood up, knocking her chair over. This isn't funny, she snapped. Turn it off. But it kept going. Line after line. Her words. Her betrayal. Her love note to T, now on full display to friends, family, and strangers alike. By the time the last line scrolled onto the screen, one more weekend, and I'll be yours for good. You could have heard a pin drop. Haley was crying. Jess had her face in her hands. And me? I set the mic down. Didn't say another word. I just walked off the stage, stepped out into the crisp vineyard air, and smiled for real this time. Because I wasn't just a man walking away from a disaster. I was the groom who left before the altar and took the truth with me. But the best part? The twist hadn't landed yet. And oh, when it did, they'd be talking about it for years. The walk back to the suite was probably the most peaceful 10 minutes of my life. No phone. No one chasing after me. No dramatic soundtrack. No one yelling my name through the vineyard rows like a bad Netflix melodrama. Just the sound of my dress shoes crunching gravel, a breeze in the trees, and the distant murmuring of what I could only assume was 40 people trying to figure out whether the wedding was officially canceled or just on commercial break. When I got back to the suite, I poured myself a drink. Not wine. Not champagne. Bourbon. Straight. Something honest. I sat down on the edge of the bed where she and I were supposed to wake up tomorrow as husband and wife, and instead, I raised a silent toast to myself. To timing. To restraint. To pulling the pin and walking away before the bomb explodes in your own face. I figured I had a couple hours, maybe less, before the fallout hit. I didn't plan on sticking around for it, but I wanted to see who came knocking first. It didn't take long. Bang, bang, bang. I took another sip and opened the door. There she was. Mascara running. Lipstick smudged. Dress wrinkled. Looked like a Pinterest bride got caught in a rainstorm of consequences. Alex, Haley whispered. What the F*** K was that? I didn't answer. She stepped inside uninvited, the way cheaters do, assuming their history with you is enough of a passport to skip customs. You blindsided me, she said, spinning around to face me. In front of my parents? My friends. I raised an eyebrow. Your vows blindsided me. That wasn't. It wasn't meant for you to see. Exactly. She froze. I took a step closer, savoring the way her confidence shrank with every syllable. You wrote wedding vows to someone else. You planned to marry me while secretly saying goodbye to a man you never had the guts to name. It wasn't like that, she said. I laughed. Then tell me what it was like, Haley. Was it a metaphor? Was T a metaphor? Maybe it stood for totally loyal fiancé? She winced. I was going to end it with him, she said. After this weekend. I swear. I didn't even flinch. Right. Just one more weekend. That's all he needed. That's all I needed to know. She tried again. Look, we had a past. You knew that. We dated in college, and when we reconnected last year. I held up a hand. Stop. She shut her mouth. I don't care who he is. Not anymore. I'm not competing for you. I'm not here to fight over leftovers. Tears welled up again. Weaponized sadness. Classic. Do you know what you just did? She asked, voice trembling. You humiliated me. No, I said. I gave you the stage. Everyone saw that. My parents, your boss, the bridesmaids. Good, I said. Then maybe they'll stop asking why I called off the wedding. You can't just walk away after that. I smiled. That's exactly what I'm doing. And then I did. I walked out. Past her. Past the dress bag still hanging on the closet door. Past the champagne bucket I'd ordered 2 nights earlier when I still thought love was a shared effort. I didn't look back. I didn't take anything with me. The door closed behind me like a book I was finally done reading. And here's the thing. That could have been the end. That would have been enough. But life doesn't like clean endings. Not in this story. Not when there are still a few bodies to drag out of the vineyard. Because guess who texted me the next morning? Jess. Haley's sister. The one person who looked like she wanted to disappear into her wine glass the second my little slideshow hit the projector screen. She texted, "Can we talk? I need to tell you something." I stared at the message for a full 5 minutes. Then I texted back, 5 minutes. Back deck. No drama. When I got there, she was already sitting on the bench, hoodie on, sunglasses despite the overcast sky. She looked like someone hiding in plain sight. Which, I guess, she was. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, voice low. I nodded. "You've got 4 minutes left." She gave me a tight smile. "You don't have to be cruel." "I'm not being cruel," I said. "Cruel was watching you pretend you didn't know what your sister was doing." Her mouth twisted. "You're right. I knew." I said nothing. She looked down at her hands. I didn't know how far it went. Not until I saw the letter. I thought she'd ended things months ago. But she didn't. Jess shook her head. "No. And the worst part is, I should have told you. I wanted to. So many times. But I thought maybe you already knew. Or maybe you didn't want to." I let that hang. Because she wasn't wrong. There were signs. Moments. Gut feelings I paved over with love and optimism and the fear of starting over in my 30s. "I think you deserve to know who T is," she said quietly. And that's when it happened. That's when the twist made itself known. Ugly and true and completely insane. She took a deep breath. "It's Tyler," she said. "Tyler who?" She looked at me, eyes steady. "Tyler Matthews." I blinked. That name rang a bell, but not from Haley's side. From mine. "Wait, my Tyler Matthews." Jess nodded. "Your dad's son. From before he married your mom. The one you met at that family reunion when you were 13. I stared at her like she'd just told me I had a third arm. "That's impossible. He moved to Oregon. We haven't spoken in years." "I know," Jess said. "But he reconnected with Haley last year. At a fundraiser in Portland." "She never told you." I shook my head slowly. My stomach sank like an anchor through concrete. Haley's secret boyfriend, her T, wasn't just an ex from college. He was my half-brother. Half-brother. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice colder than I expected. Jess didn't flinch. "Positive." And just like that, everything rearranged itself. The secrecy, the intensity, the emotional confusion Haley claimed to be working through. She hadn't been torn between 2 men. She'd been straddling 2 halves of the same bloodline. "This is some Greek tragedy ***T, I muttered. Jess looked sick. "I'm sorry." I stood up. My legs felt shaky. My hands were ice. "I need you to promise me one thing," I said. She nodded. "Anything. Don't tell her I know." Jess blinked. "What?" "Not yet." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I'm not done," I said. "I always thought if I ever got cheated on, I'd burn everything to the ground. Like, full nuclear, text threads leaked, reputation scorched, someone ends up crying in a grocery store parking lot while I drive off blasting rage against the machine. Turns out, that's not how it goes. Not when the betrayal isn't just personal, it's surgical. Not when it's your fiancé writing secret wedding vows to your half-brother. A half-brother you haven't spoken to in 15 years. A man your own father conveniently forgot to mention was now making regular appearances in your would-be bride's bed. This wasn't just betrayal. It was betrayal with a twist. Betrayal with legacy. Betrayal with a bloodline. And you don't torch something like that. You carve it open and let it rot in the sun. So that's what I decided to do. It started with a guest list. After the rehearsal dinner imploded like a well-catered car crash, I sent out a group message to every family member who had RSVP'd for the wedding. Simple. Clean. 2 lines. Wedding is canceled. Thank you for your support. Please enjoy the venue this weekend. No explanation. No drama. No passive-aggressive flourish. Just silence. Let them wonder. Then I called the venue coordinator. Told her to redirect the reception decor to the bonfire pit. Explained that the wedding wouldn't proceed, but guests were welcome to stay and enjoy the property. She didn't ask questions. Probably wasn't the first time she'd seen a bride cry into a cheese board. Then came the real work. Because Haley didn't know I knew who T was. And I planned to keep it that way, right up until I slipped the knife in. I started with my father. Now, my dad and I have never been tight. He's one of those money over feelings guys. Big handshake energy, zero eye contact. He was a Wall Street lifer until a minor scandal forced early retirement. After that, he floated into consulting, golfed aggressively, and popped into my life once or twice a year to ask if I was still doing that marketing thing. But he was flying in for the wedding. First class, of course. Brought his second wife, some woman named Clarice who called everyone darling, and had a Yorkie named Bentley that she carried in a Louis Vuitton sling. So I invited him to breakfast the next morning. Just me and him. Private vineyard dining room. No Haley. No Clarice. No Bentley. He arrived looking like he always did. Expensive and mildly annoyed. Wasn't expecting to hear from you after last night, he said, sitting down. I poured him coffee. I figured you deserved an explanation. He grunted. I saw the slideshow. I smirked. How was the wine pairing? He didn't laugh. I leaned in. Dad, I need to ask you something. And I need a straight answer. He tilted his head, defensive already. About what? Tyler. His shoulders stiffened. T, I said. Your other son. He set down his coffee. We met once. Remember? Family reunion in the Catskills. I was 13. You said he was a cousin. He called you dad when no one was listening. My father's face went blank. I continued. He and Haley reconnected last year. They've been seeing each other behind my back. She wrote him wedding vows. He didn't say anything. Did you know? I asked. A long silence. Finally, he spoke. No, I didn't know. I studied him. I believed him, partially. What I do know, he said slowly, is that Tyler has always had a chip on his shoulder. About me. About you. About everything. I wouldn't put it past him to sabotage. I raised an eyebrow. Sabotage. He sipped his coffee. Let's just say he wasn't thrilled when I told him he wouldn't be in the will. There it was. Not love. Not grief. Not shame. Just inheritance. I stood up. Thanks for the honesty. Alex. No, really, I said, voice cold. That was more emotion than I've seen from you in 20 years. Tell Clarice I said hi. And Bentley. I walked out before he could say another word. Now I knew what I needed to know. This wasn't just cheating. It was leverage. See, Haley didn't fall for Tyler by accident. She's not the type to fall. She calculates. And if she reconnected with my half-brother, it wasn't because of destiny. It was because she saw something valuable in him. Or at the very least, something that could hurt me enough to make her feel powerful. But here's what she didn't know. I don't just work in marketing. I build narratives. I take scattered pieces and arrange them into a story people believe. So I started crafting one. I texted Jess. Need a favor. Can you meet me at the barn in 30? Bring your iPad. She showed up, nerves all over her face. What are we doing? She asked. We're editing a wedding video, I said. Her eyebrows lifted. Seriously? Seriously. Together, we cut a new version of the wedding montage. Same photos. Same vacation clips. But in between, we added little slices of truth. Screenshots of the wedding vows. A photo I found of Tyler and Haley at that Portland fundraiser. A screen recording of her text thread with him, courtesy of her iCloud sync that, surprise, she never turned off on the shared laptop. We scored it with the same romantic instrumental she'd chosen for the original montage. Real classy. By the time we were done, it was 8 minutes of poetic justice. I exported the file, uploaded it to YouTube under an unlisted link, and sent it to one person, Haley's mother. Then I waited. 22 minutes later, my phone rang. Haley. I let it ring. She called again. And again. On the fourth try, I picked up. Alex, what is wrong with you? She screamed. You sent that video to my mom. I sipped my bourbon. I did. She's having a panic attack. You'll get used to those. You're sick. You're actually sick. This is cruel. You're just dragging people down with you now. No, I said calmly. I'm dragging the truth up with me. If you wanted privacy, you should have kept your pants on. She was silent for a beat. Then, you think this is going to make you look like a hero? You think people are going to side with you after this? I smiled. No, Haley. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm looking for accuracy. She started sobbing. Real or fake? I couldn't tell anymore. Didn't care. This was supposed to be our weekend, she choked out. I laughed. Oh, it was. Just not in the way you planned. Then I hung up. I knew she'd be on damage control within minutes. Trying to spin it. Delete the video. Lie to her parents. Paint me as the vengeful ex. Didn't matter. Because I'd already sent the link to 3 more people. The wedding photographer, her boss, and my college roommate. The one who runs a gossip-heavy wedding blog with 100K followers. By sunset, the video had leaked. By nightfall, the comments were coming in. And by midnight, Haley's perfect life had started unraveling. But the best was still to come. Because I had one last gift planned. One more surprise. And this one wasn't digital. There's a specific kind of silence that follows humiliation. It's not peaceful. It's surgical. The kind of silence where people stop making eye contact with you. Where whispers get quieter, but somehow sting louder. Where the sound of your own phone vibrating feels like a threat instead of a lifeline. That's where Haley lived for the next 48 hours. Radioactive silence. See, I didn't just burn the house down. I opened the windows and let the neighbors watch. The wedding video I stitched together, with her heartfelt vows to my half-brother, the fundraiser photo, and those tender little iMessages that ended with, I want to disappear into you. It didn't stay unlisted for long. Once her mother got a hold of it, the thing spread faster than a wildfire in August. The photographer sent it to his assistant. His assistant sent it to a wedding planner. The planner posted it in a private industry Facebook group. Boom. It leaked. By Sunday afternoon, the comments section had taken on a life of its own. A mix of disbelief, sympathy for the poor groom, and, of course, a healthy dose of schadenfreude. The internet loves a good wedding implosion, especially one involving secret half-brothers and weaponized vows. And while the world dissected her betrayal frame by frame, Haley was busy calling everyone in her orbit to clean it up. She tried to get the venue to issue a takedown request. They didn't. She begged the blog that reposted it to remove the story. They wouldn't. She even called my cousin, the lawyer, to threaten legal action. He laughed and told her the truth hurts, but isn't defamatory. Meanwhile, I packed my bags. Not out of shame. Out of efficiency. I'd rented the suite through Sunday night. But I wasn't about to spend another minute in a place that smelled like lavender essential oils and broken promises. I checked out early, dropped off my tux, and left the vineyard behind like a crime scene that no longer needed a witness. But I wasn't done. Because there was still Tyler, the ghost in the machine, the shadow behind the slideshow. He hadn't reached out. Not a single word. Which meant one of two things. Either he didn't know I knew, or he knew and was too much of a coward to face the fallout. Either way, it didn't sit right. I wasn't going to let the man who helped gut my engagement slink back into whatever cave he'd crawled out of. So I made a call. Not to him. To someone who knew where he was. Hey, Uncle Mark, I said casually. You still in touch with Tyler? Pause. Why? We reconnected recently. I lied. Said he might be in town. Thought I'd say hi. Uncle Mark gave up the address without hesitation. Said Tyler had been crashing in Berkeley the past few months, freelancing for some design agency. Real low-key. I thanked him and hung up. Then I got in the car and drove. Berkeley on a Monday morning is a strange kind of alive. Too much caffeine, not enough deodorant. The street Tyler lived on was lined with cars that hadn't moved in weeks and houses that looked like they'd been inherited, not bought. His place was a converted garage tucked behind a crumbling Victorian. The kind of spot where people made kombucha in the bathtub and called it personal growth. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Eventually, I heard shuffling, then the door creaked open. And there he was. My half-brother. Taller than I remembered. Same crooked jawline. Same eyes. He looked surprised. Like he'd just seen a ghost. Or a consequence. Alex, he said, trying to play it cool. Didn't expect. Can we talk? He hesitated, then stepped aside. The inside smelled like incense and failure. A laptop was open on the couch, design files pulled up. Half a burrito sat on the coffee table, untouched. Want a beer? He asked. No, I said flatly. I want answers. He nodded slowly, then sat down. I assume you know, he said. Just the basics, I said. You and Haley. The fundraiser. The letters. He winced. It wasn't supposed to get that far. I didn't respond. He rubbed his face. It started casual. She was magnetic. Yeah, that's the word, I said. We were both going through stuff. She said she felt trapped. Like she was sleepwalking into this perfect life she didn't choose. I folded my arms. So you gave her a detour. He flinched. Look, I didn't mean to hurt you. That's the problem, Tyler. You didn't mean anything. You just existed in the gray area long enough for everything to rot. He looked down. I stood up. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear again. No social media. No comment. No passive-aggressive subposts. You vanish. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. And if you don't, if I hear your name in connection with Haley again, I'll make sure every business partner, design firm, and startup in this city knows exactly who you are and what you did. I'll send them the video, the texts. Hell, I'll send them a framed copy of the vows. He looked pale. You wouldn't. I leaned in. I would. Because unlike you, I finish things. I turned to leave. Wait, he said. Why haven't you told Haley that you know it was me? I stopped at the door. Because the not knowing? I said. That's going to haunt her longer than any confrontation ever could. Then I walked out and didn't look back. On the way home, I turned off my phone. Drove in silence. No music. No podcasts. Just me and the road and the growing feeling that I'd finally reached the other side of something. Not closure. Just clarity. Later that week, I started getting messages from people who had seen the video. Not randoms. Not internet trolls. People who mattered. My assistant. A potential client. Even my ex from college. The one who dumped me for being too safe. They all said the same thing. I didn't know you had that in you. And you know what? Neither did I. But I do now. One more part left. One more piece to set in place. And after that, well, let's just say Haley won't be the only one losing something permanent. You'd think after all that, I'd be done. The slideshow, the leaked video, the digital humiliation, the exile of my half-brother. That should have been the end, right? But endings don't just happen. You have to build them. You have to make sure every last thread is tied off so tightly it strangles whatever came before it. And there was still one thread left dangling. Her. See, Haley hadn't reached out again since the meltdown call. No apology. No explanation. No Hail Mary plea for closure. Which told me she wasn't sorry, just defeated. She was waiting for the dust to settle, probably plotting how to crawl back to normal like nothing ever happened. But people like her don't get normal. They get remembered. And I wanted to be sure of it. It started with a dress. Well, technically a dry cleaning slip for the dress. It was still hanging in the suite after I left. I could have ignored it. Could have mailed it back. But instead, I picked it up, drove to a different cleaner, and had it pressed. Then I dropped it off. Not to Haley. To her old college roommate, Emma. The one she was always trying to impress, but secretly hated. The one who once told me, "You're the best thing Haley's ever managed not to sabotage, yet." I left a note inside the garment bag. She said you always wanted to try it on. Now's your chance. Petty? Sure. But also perfectly tuned. Then came the invitations. Remember those custom linen invitations we ordered? Embossed, letterpress, gold foil? They weren't cheap. I kept the extras in my closet, 38 of them, sealed and unused. I repurposed them. Each one, I wrote a single line in black Sharpie across the inner flap. She wrote vows. Just not to me. Then I mailed them. To her coworkers. Her extended family. Her yoga studio. Even her dentist. You know what they say, go big or go root canal. By now you're probably thinking, okay, Alex, what more is there? Haven't you done enough? And maybe you're right. But revenge isn't just about payback. It's about engineering silence. Permanent silence. I wanted her to live in the pause. That moment before the apology she'd never have the courage to make. I wanted her to scroll through group chats that had gone eerily quiet. To wonder who had seen what. To go to brunch and feel eyes burning through her skin while everyone sipped mimosas and pretended nothing had changed. That's not cruelty. That's consequence. But the real finale? That came the following Friday. I was back at work, trying to slide into normal like I hadn't just ejected myself from a relationship with the precision of a fighter pilot. We had a pitch meeting with a luxury real estate firm. Big account. High-end. The kind of client that expects you to smell like old money and confidence. We're halfway through the presentation when I notice the project lead is squinting at me. She finally says, "You look familiar. Were you in that wedding video?" The room tenses. I just smile and say yes. That was me. She nods slowly. That was incredible. I shrug. We believe in narrative clarity. Everyone laughs. We signed the deal. That night, I went home and opened a bottle of wine, something Haley would have called too dry, and poured out, and sat on my balcony. It was over. Not in the dramatic, scorched earth way people think revenge ends. No smoke. No gunshots. Just a long, slow fade into exactly what I wanted. Silence. But then, because life has a sense of humor, I got one last message. An email. From a burner address. Subject line, "I deserved it." Just that. No greeting. No name. No explanation. I read it 3 times. Didn't reply. Didn't need to. Because that's not closure. That's a confession. And a confession without forgiveness is just another kind of prison. So now I live free. I still see her name sometimes. In gossip threads. On LinkedIn. Once on a friend's engagement photo. One of those wide group shots where everyone's smiling but the tension is just under the surface. She's still trying to look like someone worth trusting. Still performing. But not for me. Never again. I kept the slideshow, by the way. Not for revenge. Not for proof. Just to remind myself what it looks like when someone writes vows to the wrong man, and you give them the stage anyway. Let her talk. Then walk away. And never, ever look back. Subscribe to the channel